$40. That's what I handed over for one small bag that swore it would fix my lawn. It's a Saturday morning, coffee in one hand, sun already warm on the grass. I walk out barefoot to check the work I did last spring, and there it is again. That same bare patch right by the path. Brown, thin, dead in the middle. Same spot as last year, same spot as the year before that. I had raked it, I had seeded it, I had watered it. And nothing changed. The villain here isn't the weather, and it isn't your thumb. It's the garden aisle. The advice printed on the back of that bag is written to sell you another bag next spring. I got tired of it. Tired of paying twice. Tired of watching the same ground die every single June while the rest of the lawn just laughed at me. Because most people do three things wrong. They toss the seed right on top of the soil, they give it one good soak, and then they walk away. And nothing ever changes. So let me ask you something before we go any further. Do you really believe your soil is the problem? Because that is exactly what they want you to believe. Last autumn, I stood in the shop and held 2 bags of seed side by side under the light. One cost 4 times the other. I read every word on both, and the seed inside was very nearly identical. That was the moment I stopped trusting the label and started digging. I went looking, not in the aisle, but in the actual research and in the way people grew thick grass long before any of this was sitting on a shelf. I'm going to show you 2 things today. First, why those dead patches keep coming back in the exact same place no matter what you pour on them. Second, why the rest of your lawn is quietly thinning even where it still looks fine. And right at the end, I'll hand you one old method, free, almost forgotten. It stops both problems from ever coming back. I'm not going to name it yet, but it is the entire reason I made this video. Part 1 is the one that hurts the most, the bare dead patch that returns every year in the same spot. And we start here because this is the failure that makes people quit on their lawn altogether. So here's the small mystery. Why does seed grow thick and green in one corner and completely refuse to grow 3 feet away in soil that looks exactly the same? Here is what you instinctively do. You grab a rake, you scratch the dead patch a little, you shake seed over the top, and you feel like you've done the job. It feels logical, the ground is bare, so you cover it with seed. Simple. But here is what is actually happening down at soil level. That seed is just sitting there, exposed, on top of hard ground. And a single grass seed needs one thing above all else to wake up. It needs constant contact with moist soil for the entire time it takes to sprout. That window is longer than you think. Ryegrass can take 5 to 10 days. Fescue takes 10 to 14. Kentucky bluegrass can take up to 30 days to fully come up. 30 days. That means the top quarter inch of your soil has to stay damp for weeks, not for one afternoon. You watered it once, the sun came out. By noon, that seed was bone dry. And a dry seed that has already started to swell and then dries out is a dead seed. It doesn't get a second chance. That's if the birds even left it for you. Loose seed lying on bare, open ground is a free meal. A good share of what you scattered was gone within a day, carried off while you were inside feeling proud. So let me flip the belief right here. Bare patches don't fail because you used cheap seed. They fail because that seed never touched living soil and never stayed wet long enough to live. Now let me give you the fix from the simplest thing to the thing that actually guarantees it. The first move is to stop scratching and start opening the soil. Take a hard rake and work that dead patch until the top ½ inch is loose and crumbly, not smooth, rough. You want little grooves and pockets for seed to fall into and hide from the birds. Pull out the dead thatch while you're there because seed cannot reach soil through a mat of old, dead grass. The second move is the one almost nobody does, and it's the one that matters most. After you spread the seed, you press it in. Get soil to seed contact. Walk over the whole patch with your feet, or tamp it with the back of a rake, or roll it. Traditional growers had a saying about this, that you should never sow what you don't tread in. They knew 100 years ago that seed lying loose on the surface is seed wasted. The third move is to cover it. A thin blanket, no more than 1/4 inch, of fine soil or screened compost over the top. This does 2 jobs at once. It hides the seed from birds, and it holds moisture against the seed like a damp sponge. That single quarter inch can be the difference between a green patch and another dead one. And the fourth move is water, not one soak. Light water twice a day, every day, for that whole germination window of 2 to 4 weeks. You are not trying to flood it. You are trying to keep that top layer from ever drying out. Miss 2 hot days in a row and you start over. Now, about that $40 patch kit I bought, let me tell you what's actually inside it, because this is where it stops being an accident. Most of that bag is mulch and filler dyed green, so it looks like it's doing something. There's a little seed, a little fertilizer, and a lot of shredded paper, and that mulch dries out fast in the sun. The people who made it know that. They know you'll water it once, they know most of it will fail, and they are counting on you walking back into that aisle next spring to buy it all over again. The instructions are vague on purpose. Water regularly, it says. It never tells you twice a day for a month, because if you actually did that, you'd only need to buy it once. And if you want to go even deeper into these old methods before we get to the second half of today's video, I want to tell you about something worth knowing. There are a set of guides called the Amish Lawn Guide, the Amish Soil Guide, and the Complete Amish Yard Field Edition, available as digital books for $97, and the link is in the description below. These are built around the same soil-first thinking you're hearing right now, the kind of knowledge that was kept alive by people who never had a garden aisle to lean on and never needed one. If you're serious about stopping this cycle for good, they're worth a look before another season slips by. All right, let's get back into it, because the second half of this is where it gets uncomfortable. But fixing the patch, you can see, is only half the battle. Because the reason those patches keep opening up in the first place is happening across your whole lawn in ground that still looks perfectly healthy today. Part 2 is a completely different problem. Wearing a disguise, the slow, invisible thinning of the grass you think is fine, and if you ignore it, this is what turns one patch into 10. Here's the blunt version. Your grass isn't dying from the top down. It's suffocating from the bottom up. Look. Everyone stares at the blades of grass. Green, good. Brown, bad. That's how we all judge a lawn. But the blade is just the flag. The real story is under your feet, in the roots and the soil they're trying to breathe in, and most lawns are choking on compacted soil. Every time you walk across it, every time the kids play on it, every time the mower rolls over it, the soil gets pressed a little tighter. Over the years, it packs down like a clay brick. The tiny air pockets that roots need get crushed flat. Here is what's actually happening when soil compacts. Roots need oxygen down there, same as they need water. When the soil is packed, there's no air, so the roots stay shallow and weak. Water can't soak in either, so it just runs off the surface and down the drive, and you think your lawn is thirsty when really it's drowning on top and parched underneath. Weak, shallow roots mean grass that gives up the moment summer gets hot. That's how a healthy-looking lawn suddenly opens into bare patches in July. So let me reframe it. Thin, patchy grass is almost never a seed problem. It's an air problem and a soil problem, and no bag on that shelf is built to fix either one. Let me give you 3 methods to beat it, from the cheapest thing you can do this afternoon to the thing a professional would reach for. Method 1 costs you nothing but a change of habit. Raise your mower. Most people cut far too short, right down to an inch or 2, because they think it means fewer mows. But short grass has short roots. It's a rule you can't cheat. Set your blade to keep the grass around 3 inches tall, closer to 3.5 in high summer. Taller blades grow deeper roots. They shade the soil so it holds water, and they block sunlight from reaching weed seeds. And never take off more than 1/3 of the height in a single cut. Scalp it, and you stress the whole plant into thinning out. Method 2 is aeration, and this is the one that undoes years of compaction. You want a core aerator, the kind that actually pulls small plugs of soil out of the ground, not the spike kind that just pokes holes and presses the soil even tighter. A core aerator pulls plugs around 2 to 3 inches deep and drops them on the surface. Suddenly, air, water, and nutrients can get straight down to the roots. Do this once a year in the fall, and leave the little plugs where they land to break down on their own. You can rent one for an afternoon and share the cost with a neighbor. Method 3 is where you finally rebuild a thin lawn instead of just patching it, and that's overseeding right after you aerate, while all those holes are open, you spread fresh seed across the entire lawn, not just the bare spots. The seed drops into the aeration holes, which give it that soil contact and moisture we already talked about. This is how you thicken a whole tired lawn at once and crowd out weeds before they get a foothold. Do it in early fall when the soil is still warm from summer but the air has cooled, because grass seed wakes up on soil temperature, not air temperature. It needs the soil sitting above 50 degrees to sprout well, and fall gives you that with far less heat stress than spring. And here's the part the industry really doesn't advertise. Fall is the best time to seed by a wide margin, but the whole product machine points you at spring when the garden centers are packed and everybody's in a buying mood. They sell you seed at the exact time of year it's most likely to struggle in the heat against the weeds, so you're back again in the fall and back again next spring. The season that would actually give you results quietly gets the least attention. Before I give you the last piece, I want to ask you one thing, because you made it this far and you clearly care about getting this right. Subscribe to the channel. This is where I dig up the mechanism behind why our lawns and gardens fail, the parts the aisle keeps fuzzy on purpose, and I hand it over plain and free. If you want to stop guessing every season, come join the people who want the real reason things work. That's the whole point of this. One click, and let's get straight back to it. Part 3, prevention. And this is the one I sealed at the start. The single old method that keeps both the dead patches and the slow thinning from ever coming back. It's called top dressing with compost. And once you understand it, you'll wonder why nobody in that aisle ever mentioned it. Here's why it works. In one breath. A thin layer of good compost spread over your lawn feeds the soil itself, not just the grass. And living soil grows thick grass that fills its own gaps before a bare patch can ever form. Everyone else feeds the grass. They pour on synthetic fertilizer, get a quick green flush, and the soil underneath stays as dead and hard as ever. That's the trap. But what's actually happening when you top dress with compost is different at the root. You're adding organic matter and billions of living microbes back into the ground. That compost loosens compacted soil over time. It holds moisture like a sponge through the dry months, and it feeds the grass slowly and steadily instead of in one useless burst. Soil that's alive doesn't leave open ground for weeds or bare patches. It heals itself. The material is simple, screened, well-rotted compost. You can buy it cheap by the bag or the yard, or you can make it for nothing from your own grass clippings and leaves. To apply it, you spread a thin layer over the lawn, no more than 1/4 inch, and you work it down to the soil with the back of a rake or a stiff broom, making sure you never bury the grass blades. Once a year, in the fall, right after you aerate and overseed. That's it. This is not a new trick. This is the oldest trick there is. The great estate lawns and the old bowling greens, the ones that stayed flawless for 100 years, were kept that way with top dressing long before a single bag of chemical fertilizer existed. The head gardeners built the soil season after season, and the soil did the rest. Then the products arrived, promising the same green in a fraction of the time, and this slow, free, soil-building method got quietly pushed off the shelf. Not because it stopped working, because you can't build a business on something a homeowner can do for free with a pile of rotting leaves. Somebody kept doing it anyway, the old groundskeepers who never trusted the shortcut, and now you have it too. Do this every fall and you will spend a fraction of what I wasted. That $40 patch kit bought every single spring, gone. Instead, you build a lawn that repairs itself, and you save yourself the better part of $100 a year in seed, patch kits, and fertilizer you no longer need. So, which piece is for you? If you've got a small yard and you're busy, just do 2 things. Raise your mower and top dress once in the fall, and you'll be ahead of 90% of your street. If you've got a bigger lawn that's really tired and thin, do the full round in the fall, aerate, overseed, then top dress, all in the same weekend, and let that one push carry you all year. And if you're the type who wants the perfect lawn, do the full round every single fall without fail, and within 2 or 3 years you'll have soil so alive that patches simply stop showing up. Now, here's the new problem coming for you, and I want you ready for it. Once you start building living soil and your grass grows thick and lush the way it's meant to, you're going to run into thatch. That's the spongy layer of old stems and roots that builds up between the green blades and the soil, and on a thriving lawn, it grows faster than you'd expect. Let it get too thick and it starts blocking the very water and air you worked so hard to let back in. If that's the fight you can already feel coming, or if you've got a lawn that squishes and bounces when you walk on it right now, leave me a comment and just type the word thatch. Type it so I know how many of you are hitting that wall, because that tells me what to dig into next. You didn't lose all those seasons because you're bad at this. You lost them because the simplest, oldest answer was quietly taken off the table and sold back to you one failing bag at a time. Now you've got it back. In the next video, I'm going to expose exactly how thatch builds up, why the rake they sell you makes it worse, and the old way to clear it without wrecking your lawn. Subscribe so it lands in front of you the moment it goes up, because this is the next battle, and I don't want you walking into it blind like I did. If you stayed this far, here's what comes next. This video gave the overview, but inside the Amish Garden Circle, I walk you through the full Patchy lawn recovery system week by week, picking up right where we stopped. And if something isn't working, you ask me, and I answer you myself, a real person. You won't be alone. You belong here with old ways gardeners like you. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen. Cancel anytime. Now that those bare spots are filling in, there's one hidden problem still choking your grass underneath. In the video, starting right here, I'll show you how to clear it out the right way so your lawn can finally breathe and thrive.